And what was the reason for that? The reason for that is that Umar ibn Khattab was of those who he would cut off every opportunity that the Shaytaan would try to creep in upon him. So one day, Umar, he stood up on the minbar, and this was not Jummah or anything like that, but he stood up on the minbar and gave a khutbah to the people. But his khutbah was very short. And he said, when I was young, I used to work for my aunts, and they would work me very hard. And then when I would come back to them, as a payment for all my work that I did, they would give me a handful of raisins, and I would have a miserable day. And then he stepped down. So some of the Sahaba, they went up to Amir Mu'mineen, because he was the Khalifa at this time, and they said, what was the point of your khutbah? Like, all you did was go up there and humiliate yourself in front of everyone. You talked about, the poverty that you're in, and that you have a miserable day when your aunts gave you a handful of raisins. Umar had said to the Sahaba, he said that my nafs started whispering to me. It started saying, look at you. There is no one that is between you and Allah. And so I wanted to teach my nafs a lesson, to remind myself where I came from. And so this is how Umar was. Is that any crack that the Shaytaan may even be able to come into, Umar was trying to close the door, close the window, and shut every type of entry that the Shaytaan would enter upon him. So that if you cut it off from the very beginning, he won't be able to continue off. It's just like, one of the things that they tell you at the prison working with inmates is that you cut it off from the very beginning. Don't even accept a piece of candy from an inmate, because that can lead to something greater later on down the line. And the same thing with the Shaytaan. You have to cut off his whispering from the very beginning. Because the way that the Shaytaan would generally speaking work in terms of those things that are impermissible is that he'll try in two separate ways. The one way is just a test, kind of putting the bait out there and see if you'll grab it. The other way is something that you have to work on we have to work on within our own selves. So the first way is that those fleeting thoughts that may come to your head, those thoughts that you just kind of think to yourself, where did that come from? Like you have no inclination towards it, you never would have thought about it any other time, and they just come to your head. Those are those baits that the Shaytaan is just trying to see if he can get you to dwell on it. Because they're still in a random, horrid thought, and see if you'll just sit there and ponder about it. And so in those type of situations, if you just let it pass and don't think about it, then you haven't taken his bait, so to speak. The other way, though, is the one that's more dangerous. Because the other way is those things that you truly actually incline towards. As Allah says in the Quran, "Inna nafsa amar bisu," that the nafs, commands to evil. So every one of us, we have some things within our nafs, our egos, that will incline towards that which Allah is displeased with. And so the thing is that what the Shaytaan does in this type of situation is that he knows that you have these desires. And so what he'll do is that he'll do two things. One is that he'll try to continuously remind you of this desire that you have. And two, he will try to give you excuses of why you should do it. In particular, he'll try to get you emotionally wound up. In particular, with anger is one of the main causes. That's why they say that you should never make a major decision when you're angry. And this is one of the reasons why the Prophet Muhammad has informed us that, for example, when you're angry, if you're standing, then sit down. If you're sitting, then lie down. And if that doesn't work, then get up and make wudu. Because anger, a lot of times, is coming from the Shaytaan, and water puts out fire. And so the thing is that he will first try to, get you to ponder about it, or get you to, incline more towards it, and then he'll give you excuses of why you should do it. And the thing is that those desires that we have, those are things that we have to work on. That jihad al-nafs, as the Messenger of Allah has mentioned, working on the self. Whatever Lord desires that we may incline towards, we have to work on purifying ourselves from that. Of the best things that you can do when you have those lower desires is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Is it not except when you remember Allah that hearts find peace? Because what's the benefit of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? For one, it's going to give you sakina and tranquility in your heart. That is a blessing in and of itself. But secondly, the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually repels the shayateen. The dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually literally repels the shayateen. And so it's only when we're in a state of ghafla that the shayateen have any power over us, or any type of, because the shayateen, they actually have no power over us. But when I say power over us, I mean that whispering is going to be prevalent. And so this is why, if you look in the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at every moment in time you have some type of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you wake up, what do you say? Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ma tamama matana wa ilayhi nushur. When you get up and you go to the restroom, what do you say? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wa khaba'ith. When you come out of the bathroom, what do you say? Ghufranaka alhamdulillah alladhi athaba anni al-ada'. When you make wudu, after you finish making wudu, what do you say? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu Muhammadan Rasulullah, Allahumma ajini min at-tawwabin wa ajini min at-tatahhirin. Then you go and you pray the salat, and the salat is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's entirety. After you finish the salat, you have the adhkar that you would say, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. When you leave the house, you have the dhikr of, saying Bismillah and Ayatul Kursi. When you get into your car, you have subhanallah, sakharna hadha wa ma kunahu muqrinin. Wa inna ila rabbina subhanallah, sakharna hadha wa ma kunahu muqrinin. Wa inna ila rabbina munqalibun. So on and so forth. So you have a way to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every state. And this is the whole purpose of it, is to keep ourselves safe from the evil within our own selves and the evil waswasa of the shaitan. But this is when it comes to the aspects of shirk or doubt, and also when it comes to the haram. But we said before that the shaitan is a very intelligent individual. So the shaitan is not just going to leave you with that. Because for all intents and purposes, not everyone is going to fall for that, So the shaitan, he's not going to just give up. And so if he can't get you to have doubts or, commit shirk in of himself, he can't get you to actually fall for one of his traps that can slip you into the haram, then the next thing that he may try to do to you is one that, many of us really have to focus on. Is that if he can't get you to do any of these other things, then the next thing that he will try to do is that he'll try to busy you with those things that are really permissible. Before he does that, he'll try to actually get you to do those things that are makruh. He'll try to get you to do those things that are disliked. And the reason for that is because what is the ruling of something that is makruh? It means that it's something that if you were to leave it, you'll be rewarded for it. But if you were to do it, you won't be eligible for the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the basic definition that's given for something that's makruh. And so the thing is that if he can get you to do those things that are makruh, then at that point in time, he's at least going to put you in a situation where you're not benefiting from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its entirety. Of the things that he may get you to do, for example, this doesn't necessarily apply to people that are here, because this is the breakfast club, and so part of the breakfast club is that you're here for Fajr. Is that for example, for a man, he'll try to give you an excuse of why you shouldn't go to the masjid. You don't have to go to the masjid and pray in Jama'ah. It's fine, it's okay. Or he'll try to convince you of why, for example, you don't have to, pray your sunnah. Oh, it's fine, you got too many things to do, just pray your fard, and that's fine. The Prophet ﷺ said that the deen is easy. So on and so forth. Why? Because he doesn't want you to receive any type of extra thawab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the more good deeds that you gather from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya, the better our chances are when we stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't want that. the saying, misery loves company. He's miserable and he wants you to be miserable with him. But the thing is that his misery is the ultimate misery, because these are those who will be in the hellfire, and he wants you to join him. And so he'll try to busy you with the makruh. If he can't do that, then he'll go to the next one. And this is what I say is one of the most dangerous for many of us, is that if he can't get you to have doubt in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he can't get you to commit the haram or fall into the traps that lead to the haram, if he can't get you to engage in the makruh, then he'll try to do the fourth thing, which is busy you with those things that are merely permissible. Now, why is this a trap? If it's permissible, then what's the problem? What is the ruling of something that's permissible? The ruling of something that is permissible is that by doing it, you receive no reward, and by not doing it, you're not eligible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment. Meaning there's no reward or punishment for you doing it. So it's not as something like that's makruh where you get reward for not doing it. This is something where it's neutral. But what is the aspect of being something that's neutral? Is that if something is neutral and you spend a good deal of time doing it, then what happens? Nothing, essentially. But that nothing, what happens with that? When you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Yawm al-Qiyamah, that means what? Your deeds are going to be light. They're going to be lighter than what they could have been. For example, they say about the people of paradise, the people of paradise will have no regrets. The mere fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enter into paradise, will be sufficient. They'll have no regrets, except one. That only regret that they will have is the time that they spent in this world that they didn't use worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the ulama, they say that every breath is a precious jewel. The reason why they say that is because when you breathe in, and then you breathe out, you can't get that breath back. Every breath that you take in and you breathe out, you're that much closer to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the saying goes, as soon as you're born, you start to die. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. This it's ajib how powerful the short surahs in the Quran are. Because now that I'm thinking about it, this surah kind of sums up this whole conversation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Wal asr, by time, Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Verily the human being, the insan, is in a state of loss. Illa alladhina amanu wa aminu salihat. So that covers what we were just talking about. Those who believe. And when we talk about amin, when we talk about belief, we believe with yaqeen. So we don't have these doubts that come in and cause some disturbance in our hearts in terms of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But also after that, aminu salihat. And those who do righteous good deeds. Meaning that you spend your time busying yourself with those things that have benefit to you. Because what is the whole aspect of righteous deeds? If we do righteous deeds, do they benefit Allah? No. If we do righteous deeds, do they, decrease anything from Allah? No. So these are only for our benefit. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in Surah Al-Asr that these are the people who are not in loss. Those who believe and do righteous good deeds. وَتَوَصَّوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَصَّوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they encourage one another to the truth and to have patience. Because the thing is that in order to get through this dunya, you're going to have patience in terms of the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because everything around you is going to be in opposition to that. And the closer that we get to Yawm al-Qiyamah, the more that's going to be the case. And so this is, you can say the hallmark for the believer in terms of how we're supposed to look at this environment. Is that if we're not of those who are believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing righteous good deeds and inclining others and ourselves towards truth and patience, then we're of the losers, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Verily the human being is in loss. Illa, except الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And so the shaitan, what he'll do is that he'll try to just busy you with those things that are merely permissible. So what do? The shaitan says, look, you had a long day. You've been working all week. You've been, going to the masjid. You've been doing this, doing that. Look, just take a day just to relax. It's Sunday. It's football season. The Giants are playing. Just turn on the TV and kick back. And then what happens? The Giants are playing. Then after that, it's the Eagles. Then after that, it's the Bengals or whoever. And all of a sudden, 6 hours have gone past, and all you've done is watch football. Is it haram? Not necessarily. But that's 6 hours that you can never get back. And when you stand on Yawm al-Qiyamah, is watching 6 hours of football going to help you? But for the shaitan, he's pleased. At least he's not worshipping Allah.